Morning everybody. It's Monday the 5th of December. I'll be going out campaign again shortly. After a good day yesterday, I had my agent with me, so we managed to get through a number of streets very rapidly, and I was going to do other things this morning before going out, catching up on emails, doing other campaign related stuff, but I saw a tweet this morning which made me think I can't resist going out and doing this other video. I've just got to do this. This is just so utterly bizarre. So I've just seen a tweet in which Kier Starmer was asked, would you ever see a case for going back into the single market? And apparently his response was, no, I wouldn't. Having left, there is now no case for going back. And I thought to myself, what utterly bizarre logic. We left, therefore there is no case for going back. And I thought, this is just further evidence, if any was needed, that this man is taking us for utter fools. I mean, this is utterly insane. And for me, it throws a spotlight on specifically who I'm trying to appeal to in this election. So, if you're a Tory or a convinced Brexiteer, then, you know, I'd love you to vote for me, but, you know, I'm not so stupid as to think that there's much likelihood of you doing that. I'm specifically appealing to Labour Remainers, because here's the thing. What I'm hearing on the doorstep from at least some of you is, as I've said in this other video that you may have seen, I produced earlier this morning for the BBC. It's all got to be done in 1 minute, so it's a little bit difficult for me as I'm a bit of a novice at this sort of thing. Anyway, point is, the message I'm getting on the doorstep from some of you is, we'd love to vote for you, but we won't vote for you because we're frightened of splitting the Tory vote. Well, here's the thing. If you vote for me, we're frightened of splitting the anti-Tory vote. Okay, so here's the thing. If you vote for me, you won't split the anti-Tory vote, because I used to be a member of the Labour Party. I'm on the left in politics. If you elected me to Parliament, I would work with the Labour Party in opposition to the Tories, while seeking to hold their feet to the fire over the insanity of Brexit. Because it really is utterly insane. I mean, where is this man Starmer coming from? He's supposed to be clever. I mean, the economist David Ricardo 200 years ago explained why it was that everybody would be worse off by erecting trade barriers between themselves, which is what we've done leaving the European Union. I mean, I just don't get it. How can supposedly intelligent people seriously believe that it's actually possible to make Brexit work, that somehow we can be better off outside the EU rather than in it? I don't get it. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is, even as a road back to power, if you like, even as a sort of electoral strategy, a political, something that's considered politically expedient, the make Brexit work position is bonkers even from that point of view. Because can you imagine at the next general election, I mean, Starmer was a Remainer, so at the next general election, you can just imagine it. You know, papers like the Daily Express and the Daily Mail, they're going to be all over him, not to mention the Tory party, who will respond on cue, saying, you were a Remainer, I mean, and now you say you're pro-Brexit. So you're just not to be trusted. It's just not credible as a position. And I can only assume that he's adopting it in order to appeal to what are now a small minority of Labour supporters who still remain convinced that Brexit is a good idea. So it recalls the position that Labour has for long held, one that goes back to the period in the lead up to the 2019 general elections. Do you remember that, when they had this position of constructive ambiguity, when they went into the 2019 election saying, yes, we support a second referendum, but then when Corbyn was asked what position he would take in such a referendum, he absolutely refused to be clear about. Just totally lacking in credibility for somebody who was running for the office of Prime Minister. So, of course, it ended up pleasing nobody. It didn't end up successfully appealing to the convinced Brexiteers among Labour's potential audience, and it didn't satisfy the convinced Remainers either. And so consequently, by failing to please anybody, Labour went down to a crushing defeat. By attempting to please everybody, I'm trying to say, sorry, it ended up pleasing nobody and went down to a crushing defeat. That election was incredible, because the parties that supported a second referendum actually won 2 million more votes than did the Conservative Party, but because they were split among themselves, of course the Conservative Party, on a minority of the vote, won an absolute majority of seats. Further proof that the problem of the progressive forces in Britain is that they're too tribal and unable to cooperate. But anyway, that's another story. I suppose the final thing I want to say is that another reason why Brexit is bonkers from a left-wing perspective is that there is no conceivable left-wing agenda that I think it's possible to pursue in the 21st century without being in favour of European integration, without a willingness to work with international partners. Climate change, the energy crisis, taxation, the growing divide between rich and poor. None of these problems can be solved without international cooperation. In other words, the locus of political power has gone beyond the nation state, and these issues can only be resolved at international level. Bearing in mind, for example, how if we want, for instance, to reduce the enormous and growing inequality in the distribution of income and wealth, we have to get to grips with the multinationals and their ability to evade taxation by playing off one national regime against another, something that could only be done if we're more willing to engage in international cooperation and come to common taxation arrangements and agreements at European and other international levels. So that's about it. Thank you for listening. I'm off out campaigning now, and I will be back later on.